Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
Archlector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Best Served Cold, Joe's first standalone, and the next First Law entry after the original trilogy. On this episode, we review Left Out and A Few Bad Men. So, let's get started. As usual, folks, you know we have to shout you out.
Yes, and sorry for the skip last week, but
yes, we should talk about this. We should talk about this. We should.
The entire time that we were recording this last episode, A Drink, Harrison's appendix was in the process of exploding. So, fucking well done. You're a trooper.
Yeah. And he powered through it like a true champ.
Yeah, well, the truth is that I waited 2 more days until I had to go to the doctor because, you know, the American health system is absolute ass. And then somebody said, my grandmother-in-law was like, hey, that might be appendicitis. You probably get that checked out. So I went to the ER instead of urgent care. And then they're like, yeah, bro, you about to die. And we got it. I got it removed.
It was a close thing, wasn't it? Fucking hell.
I mean, I had it for like 4 or 5 days before. So, yeah.
Yeah, and like I told you guys years ago, I had a coworker that died from it. Didn't even out of nowhere, it just fucking dropped, and it was just ridiculous. So, thank the gods that Harrison, our boy, is alive and well. He has subverted the specter of death.
There was only one god, Jeff, and his name is Eus.
Eus. You sure isn't Eus?
Ew.
Eus?
Yes.
Oh, my ears.
My ears. But yeah, so we got to give a shout out to Harrison, the Adeptus Historical, in his advanced years.
I still can't die. I have much work to do.
In his advanced years, he is still clinging on to the vestiges of life. And we want to, thank you all for your continued support. We didn't really tell anybody about what Harrison was going through, so you guys couldn't really support us at that troubled time. But maybe now you could support us through our post-trouble time. That'd be nice.
Yeah, send us some nice messages. Send Harrison some nice get well soon messages, and that'll spur us on a little bit.
Or something hateful, something dispersed back into action. Something to be like, you guys.
Some harsh criticism. That'd be like
Yeah. I motion that people send Harrison sarcastic get well messages. That's what I support. That's what I support.
Yeah, get well in a Gmail. Just kidding at the bottom.
Get well, I guess.
I had an appendicitis, and I didn't even take a day off work.
We'll see. Well, here's cheers to Harrison though for forging on.
Yeah,
thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, George.
We're happy that you're here, man. Seriously. Once you told me it was appendicitis, when you told us it was appendicitis, I was like, "Get your ass in the fucking!" I lost my shit.
You're like, he's not gonna make it.
I was about to fucking fly down to Oklahoma and be like, "Boy, I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you, get this man to the hospital now."
But it was like literally like a 12-hour gap. You're like, yeah, it's my appendix, and then 12 hours of silence, and it was like,
yeah,
you all right?
I was like, fuck, we're gonna have to find somebody off the streets to be the new Adeptus. Hey, listen, just wear this robe and just read a lot of books about a world that doesn't exist. What? Harrison, we're happy though. I'm happy. I don't know about George, but I'm happy you're alive.
Thank you, guys.
Seriously. All right, so let's move on to our first segment, which this week will be our best meme of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the deal by now. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
So this week we have Why Do I Do This on Reddit, who he's kind of taken over as the new Tam Elbor, I think. It might be controversial for me to say this, but he's been, I think, 6 or 7 now at this point, memes of the week. So he's doing really, 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 really well, and If you listen to the podcast, why do I do this? Keep it up. You're enlarging the community and you're bringing a lot of joy. So good work. But
Good work.
this meme is I can't even remember what this is called. It's the bad 3D render of a face, and it's thank you for changing my life. And then the first Law trilogy. I'm literally a book.
So stupid.
And that's a shout out to all the people like us who have been irrevocably changed by this series, for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's imparted so much wisdom, and just like in the comments here, I say better to do it than to live with the fear of it every single day to myself. And it's true, I do that thing every single day as well.
Yep. No, I mean, yeah. The great thing about this series is that it's a completed series. Each one is its own. You could say its own trilogy, right? And we don't have to wait multiple years for the next book in the series to come out. Staring at another person that was born and raised in Jersey, just like myself, but
Yeah.
lives in the fucking desert. And
There's a
won't
couple
write.
of other names I'd like to throw in there as well, Mr. Scott Lynch and Mr. Patrick Rothfuss.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Still
whoever they are,
But
whatever, fuck them.
as a shout out to Why Do I Do This, you have been labeled with the Circle of the World podcast as Prince of the House of the Meme Maker. You're not anywhere close to a
Ooh.
god yet, like Tamal Bor, but we recognize your contributions to the community.
Exactly.
But would you say Tamal Bor has effectively been forcibly retired?
Jeff, I don't think that's the case yet. I don't think we can call
No,
him out of the action
Tamal
yet.
Bor is still active. Tamal Bor is still active. He's just, he's had a kid. He did say that on the podcast. He's a family man now.
Yeah,
You know,
and he's getting close to the retirement age.
So essentially, he just hasn't been posting as much, right?
He's like the Mike Tyson. Why do I do this? Is the Jake Paul of House of the Meme Maker.
Oh, in that case,
That's a reference.
That reference will age badly. But Tamal Bor's the Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying?
oh my god, if that's the case, Tamal Bor, we need to talk about your extracurricular activities.
Yes, stop
But-
biting off all those ears, bro. What the fuck?
Yeah, stop. All right.
Do you think that's technically cannibalism, or is it not?
What?
When Mike Tyson
What?
bit that guy's ear off, was that cannibalism?
Oh, Evander
It
Holyfield's
depends if he
ear?
swallowed. Did he swallow
Yeah,
it?
did he swallow?
I mean, if you do it in the intent to harm rather than to
No, that's
for
not what you.
sustenance.
I mean, I'm just saying Hannibal Lecter didn't have to harm somebody to eat them. He just preferred that. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. That's true.
So.
Anyway, apart from that little tangent there, sorry.
He didn't. You mean he didn't? No, I think Harris. I think what you meant to say was he didn't have to eat them in order to harm them. Because you have to harm somebody in order to eat them.
Not necessarily. What if they're already dead?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus Christ, George! If you're gonna get into semantics with me, I'm gonna.
Mate, this whole thing is semantics. I don't know what you're talking
You know
about.
what? Whatever. All right.
Anyways.
Let's move on to our first chapter read through. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the chapter Left Out, and we start off from the perspective of our boy, our favorite mathematician, our savant, Friendly, and he is out here. He's cooking lunch for our motley crew of would-be assassins and saboteurs. And they're talking, they're sitting around the table, and they have a model of Cardati's House of Leisure.
Oh, just before you get to that, I just want to talk about Friendly's little aside here where he's talking about it's so much better to have a sharp knife than a blunt one. Like, you're so much less likely to hurt yourself with a sharp knife than you are with a blunt one. Just because how easy it is to chop stuff. And that is, I worked as a chef for a couple of years, and it's absolutely true. If you've got a shit knife, you're going to hurt yourself.
That's very true, actually. You're right, George. I mean, I haven't worked in the kitchen. I was a busboy at a restaurant for like a year, but I do like to cook. George, we share recipes all the time.
Yeah.
And when I have blunt knives, you will hurt yourself more often with a sharp knife just because it's blunt. So I feel like you handle the knife worse, correct?
No, and because you have to apply more force in order to chop, so that if you're one mistake is so much worse than if you're just gliding through it with a sharp one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, thank you for pointing that out because you are correct. Because Friendly is hard at work at lunch, isn't he not, boys? Yes, he is. So they're talking about Cardates, like I said. It's wood built, like a lot of Sapani, if the majority of it. Uh, Three sides are around the courtyard with a canal at its rear, and Friendly is looking at the model, and he can judge approximately that it's 1/36 the size of the real Cardates House of Leisure, although it was hard to be precise, and he liked very much to be precise.
What is this, like House of Leisure France? Sorry.
No, it's fine. And while Friendly is kind of stressing out about the fact that he isn't precise, how he relaxes is he kind of presses his hand to his chest pocket in his shirt, and he feels comforted by the feel of his dice, which is nice. And then, Vitari is what she's doing. She's, I guess, going over the logistics of how Cardates is set up and what's going to happen in terms of the event of the ball that night or the party. Let's just call it that because it ain't going to be a ball. And, she talks about how the guests are going to be entertained. Casca interjects by saying, listen, we're all adults. Let's just say they're going to get fucked, right?
I got to say as well, because we know that Costco's coming out of a, he's recovering from his alcohol addiction, and he's completely, absolutely fucked. And the way that Stephen Pacey does this performance, it's just absolutely incredible. He sounds so worn down. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, does he? Oh man, I really got to get back into listening to it. Jesus Christ!
I mean, this is the one. This is the one. If you're gonna hold up any example of Stephen Pacey's brilliance, it's Best Served Cold.
Yeah, because he does so many different characters. Like Monza has a lot of subtleties in her voice with different situations. Shivers, obviously, there's the change later. Friendly is very, very distinct, and Casca is like one of his best performances. And this is like the book where he shines. So you definitely should listen to it.
You're right, Harrison, because I can only reading Best of Cold Casca, he just jumps off the page. He did in his short time and before they're hanged and Last Argument of Kings, and he's getting a whole book here. You're right. I need to fucking shape up. You are correct. And Vitari continues going on. She continues detailing the structure of Cardates and what's going to happen. She talks about how on the top floor there are 3 large suites that are reserved for fucking, and the royal seat, the royal suite is fit for an emperor, and so that Monza interjects by thinking that Ario's going to consider it for himself, right? He was like, "Fuck Foscar, it's going to be for me, even though it's Foscar's birthday." Right?
Sounds about right.
And Friendly is listening, and he's preparing the lunch, which turns out to be a stew, right? A stew or a soup.
Yeah.
But he's also had some fresh bread baked, scrumptious, and he's cutting it into 2 loaves into 14 slices. He's accounting for how much people are gonna eat. Actually, he's like, Monza's not gonna eat enough, which works out because Dave's gonna eat way more.
I love too how all the Friendly chapters, he is always just doing his own thing. He's there and he's listening, but his focus is on the food right now.
Yeah, I mean, Friendly has zero he's completely introspective. He has no outlook about his future or what he's doing or anything like that. He's just like, right, I'm making stew.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all I've got to do.
I guess you could say Friendly lives in the moment perpetually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He's a real eat, pray, love kind of guy. So, because Friendly.
Sorry, that just caught me off guard there. That was good.
So Friendly is listening alongside, and Monza and Vitari are talking about how that according to Carla Denider, Ario and Foscar are going to have at least 3 or 4 dozen guests, and some of them will be armed, but not so like eager to fight. Like you're armed just because I guess it's ceremonial.
Yeah.
But then they will have at least 6 bodyguards. And then Shivers, he asks if she's telling the truth, and they're like, we never know, but for sure, no, there's always a chance that she might not be telling the truth, but she's not lying to us because obviously, if we remember, previously they had poisoned her, and they need to give her the antidote afterwards. So Shivers is realizing that there's that many people coming that they're going to need more fighters than just the 7 of them.
Yeah.
And or killers, as Casca interjected later on. And they think they're going to need about 20. And then, so 20. No, Monza says 20. And then she says, as well as you 3. And when she says you 3, I'm assuming she means Shivers,
Casca,
Friendly.
and Vitari.
Oh,
And
friendly. Friendly.
Oh, friendly, yeah.
Well, here's the. I think so. I thought so, but she's not addressing Friendly by name, and he wasn't involved in the conversation. So it makes sense that the only 3 other people that have spoken so far are Vitari, Casca, and Shivers.
I do find that funny that this chapter is called Left Out, and every single character in some way is left out.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
Harrison, you were gonna say something.
I was going to say, like you guys said, the rule of 3, right? Casca says, we're all adults here. They're killers. Like, he says that about 3 different times in this chapter. We're all adults here. X.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Joe is a big fan of the comedy rules of 3.
For sure.
And it really does work. It really does work because he goes, oh yeah, they're fucked, and then Vitari kind of like accedes to that, and she's just like, yeah, this is where the guests are fucked, for lack of a better word. And it's like, oh yeah, no, the entertainers, killers.
That's true. And I think we'll get the 3rd one shortly soon. And Friendly posits to himself that 23 is an interesting number because 23 can be divided by no other.
He doesn't know. He doesn't. It's a prime number.
Oh, it's a prime number, right? Because it can only be divided by no other number except 1. No parts, no fractions, no half measures. Not unlike Mercado herself. But
that even in and of itself is a kind of proof that Friendly is a mathematical genius, because as far as we know, nobody else is aware of the fact that there's such a thing as a prime number.
Yeah.
I bet Casca is, and so is Vitari. They're pretty educated.
Yeah, but I don't think they have the Pythagorean theorem going on over there.
I don't think they give a fuck.
No.
I'm pretty sure even the Adeptus Mechanical isn't aware of it.
Oh shit! He's talking shit about your order, Harrison. What you gonna do about it?
Oh, what the fuck?
He broke his mic. So, I forget. I can't tell who asked this question, but somebody asked, "How are they gonna get 20 men inside without being noticed?" And then Vitari goes, "Well, since it's a party, there's gonna be entertainers, and we're gonna provide them." So,
this is the party.
Yeah, I got a little distracted. I'm sorry. Vitari goes, "This is the party." That joke. A little callback to that one. And she goes, "Every other person in the city is either an entertainer or a killer. Shouldn't be too hard to find someone who's both." Which I feel like was a callback to the last sentence of the previous chapter, where it was the answer was in easy reach. There was no reason a man could not be both. Which I enjoyed that. And Friendly was left out, wink wink, of the planning, but he didn't mind because the gem asked him to do what Mercado said, and that was it. And so he's out here taking a taste of his stew. He thinks it's, he's rating it 41 out of 50.
An extremely specific rating mechanism there.
So again, he's out here, cooking his stew, and then they're talking about. Monta says that Arya's going to want to drink for a while and gamble and everything, and then he's going to be brought up to the suite. And then Casca goes, oh, "Okay, so are women going to be waiting for him?" And then Mercado goes, "Yeah, one with black hair and one with red." Dun dun dun. So now we know Mercado and Vitari are going to quote unquote fuck Ario.
They're going to dress up like they're going to fuck Ario. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is what I like about this, right? In Best Served Cold, like each of the I want to say assassinations, but each of the killings is set up in a different way. You got the first one, which is just a cold-blooded kidnapping and torture and murder, and then a poisoning, and now we have like an infiltration and a deception.
Yeah, and I think when you say something like poisoning, we're selling it short, right? Like that was a mass
poisoning. Yeah,
that was genocide. Damn it!
The genocide of the banker class.
Oh, the commies love that one, I bet.
The commies.
Sorry. You could cut that out, George, if you want.
No.
So then they go, okay, when Ario's dead, then we move quickly and do the same thing to Foskar, and they'll have brought guards upstairs to watch things while they're too busy fucking. And then Monza looks at Morveer. She goes, she says you and Day can handle them. And then he Morveer this entire time has just been kind of like studying his fingernails because he's been feeling a little left out ever since the banking house of Valent and Balk in Westport. And he goes, "Oh, are we indeed? It's exactly what we're meant to do." And then Monza goes, "Yeah, try not to poison half the city this time."
To Morveer's credit, again, like we already mentioned once, like I think Monza's being overly harsh. At this point in time, because like he did what he was supposed to do. She didn't tell him parameters beforehand, so for her to be holding this against him and she even says it in the next chapter, I think. Oh, ever since Westport, I can't really trust Morveer or even less. It's like, dude, just chill. It's not his fault. He just did what you told him to.
You laid out a job with the entire description. He laid out his requirements in terms of taking that job, and it's no holds barred.
Yep.
You agreed. He said, "Fine." Now you want to throw a hissy fit?
Yeah. It's a bit unnecessary.
It is unnecessary. You're correct.
But Monza's definitely a shift blame kind of person many times. So.
Oh yeah, we will see that for sure.
Even if she shifts the blame onto herself a lot of the time.
Yes. She's weird. Whenever things are her fault, she'll shift the blame to somebody else. But if things are not her fault, she'll shift the blame onto herself, which is very interesting.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Mm-hmm. And Casca kind of just reviews it real quick. He says, "We take this spot, this spot, this spot. We secure the stairs, disarm the guests, round them up politely, boom, and we keep control." And then Monza, she reiterates that. She goes, "Control. That's the word I want at the front of your tiny minds. We kill Ario. We kill Foskar. If any of the rest make trouble, you do what you have to do, but keep the murder to a minimum. There will be trouble enough for us afterwards without a bloodbath. You all got that?" Okay.
That's a bit rude, isn't it? You tiny minds. What are you on about?
Hey, what the fuck was that about? Right, exactly. And then
he's still used to talking to a mercenary company. That's what it is.
Well, yeah, that she's trying to maintain some semblance of control herself, I feel. Especially because she's not with the mercenary company no more. She's with this ragtag group of people she doesn't know, or like Casca, she has a sordid past with, you could say. And then Casca, I like how he comes and goes, "You know what? What would help me remember is a drink, maybe." And Shivers just kind of goes, "Oh, I got it. Control. We're good about control." And then Friendly comes in. He goes, "2 murders, 1 and 1, and no more. Now here's some food." And he starts pouring out the soup.
And I also love the way that that's phrased as well. It's just like 1 and 1, no more. Food. Just like that's it. Oh, food's ready now. Everybody shut up.
Yep, straight to the point, right?
And I love the way in this next segment he's like, I'd love it. He's ladling out, and it's like everybody gets the same number of labels. But I'd love to count each and every chunk of meat and bean and piece of vegetable. But people get quite upset by that level of precision. So I'll just content myself with just counting the ladles. That's fine.
Yeah, the number of ladles, you're right. But with the deep sense of unease.
Yeah, he's like so disturbed by it. It's like killing people, torturing people, no problem. Not counting the beans, that's a problem.
I can't deal with this. I can't work on these conditions. And then Day compliments him. She goes, "This is delicious. Is there more?" And then Costa goes, "Yeah, where did you learn to cook, my friend?" And then he goes, "I spent 3 years in the kitchen of safety. the man who taught me was the head cook of the Duke of Borletta. And somebody asked him, "Oh, what was he doing in prison?" And he goes, "He killed his wife and chopped her up and cooked her in a stew and ate it." And then everybody got quiet. And then Casca goes, no one's wife in this stew, I hope." And then Friendly says, "Well, the butcher said it was lamb, and I don't have any reason to not believe him. No one sells no one sells human meat this cheap." And I was like, what?
Is Friendly confirmed to have eaten human meat? He's at least bought it before.
I don't even want to know. And then Casca goes, like a nervous laugh. He goes, "Well, it depends on the circumstances. Reminds me of when we found those kids. Do you remember, Monza? After the siege of Mures, we found these children and we wanted to sell them to a slaver, but you thought," and then right there, Morveer in a...
He said, "Of course, hilarious. What could be possibly more amusing than selling orphan children to slavery?" And everyone just like kind of goes quiet and looks at him like,
Yeah,
up.
which honestly, credit to Morveer for being a champion of children rights.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't. It's technically slavery is illegal in this part of the world, but the only person that seems to call it out is Morveer and Shivers.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Morveer
we don't get the end of that story, and presumably Monza objected as well.
No, true. But we kind of understand why Morveer probably objected. Besides the fact that it's slavery, is that he's also
An orphan.
An orphan.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he's an orphan. In his eyes, he is a unacquitted, just like poor, lonely orphan who got abandoned. So, he doesn't have any choice.
Right.
This is just playing into Morveer's deep victim complex.
Yeah, it does. As well as the fact that then Friendly notices that Morveer and Casca are exchanging deadly glances, right?
Oh yeah, there's definitely like, we'll see in just a second that Morveer is not a big fan of Casca at all.
Absolutely not. I mean, it jumps perspectives here, and we go on to Casca later. But Friendly makes a note basically that Morveer and Casca have not hit off on a good note, and that he sees something like this in Friendly in Safety, where people will just catch each other wrong. Maybe they're too different, or maybe they're too much the same, and then they just hate each other from the outset. And I have seen this happen so many times, and I've had it happen to myself. The people that I like the least are the people that are like me, but in a way that I don't like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this actually resonates really, really strongly with me, where I'm like, well, I see in you what I don't like about myself, and therefore I don't like you. And it's an incredibly irrational thing, but humans are an incredibly irrational creature, so it's a good way of writing it.
Very true. And then we get a bit of a break, but not really a break. All we get is a shift in perspective, right? And now we're in Casca's mind, and the first few words are a drink. And Casca keeps scanning the room for like these wine bottles and everything, and he's just not doing too well. And he's also like looking at Morveer, and he's just thinking about hurting him, right? Maybe like a quick lunge, and he could have just snatched the glass of wine from Morveer or whatever. But then he notices that Friendly is watching him, and he goes, "Oh, you know what? Maybe not."
Yeah.
And then he kind of like, as he's dealing with like all the withdrawal symptoms, his head's pounding, he's sweating, the shakes, his neck is itchy, all this stuff. He's kind of still talking, so he's disassociating a little bit. And what he's talking about now. He's talking about how Monza had saved his life at the siege of Mures or Mores. I don't know how do you say it.
Mures.
You were right the first time, yeah.
Mures, and that Monza saved him from being stabbed by this guy, and then also talked about how there was the next day she saved him because he fell in the moat and she took an arrow in the shoulder and everybody saw on both sides, made Casca look a fool. But then Monza interjects and she goes, "No, you got it wrong." And Casca goes, "What? What are you talking about? I don't really remember, but what?" And Monza says, "I'm the one that fell in the moat. You jumped in to save me. You risked your life and you took an arrow doing it." Now, Casca responds with a little funny retort. He says, "It doesn't seem likely I would have done such a thing like that, but it's hard for me to remember the details." But it's interesting to know, right, that Casca put his life at risk to save Monza, and from what we've seen from him in Before They're Hanged, Last Argument of Kings, and this book's, you get the idea that Casca is always about him. First and foremost, his skin is always going to be paramount compared to anything else. So I thought that was an interesting little tidbit we got there.
It's even more interesting that in his memory and how he's telling other people, his immediate reaction whenever he doesn't really remember is to put Monza on the pedestal and not himself. He doesn't do that with any other character other than maybe Friendly, which we'll see later. But
yeah,
it's very noticeable here. That is out of the blue. And in fact, most characters in the entire series don't do that. That's just pretty.
It could be. Yeah, it could be a self-hating thing that he just if he's not clear in his memory, or maybe he does remember, kind of buries it. Either way, it's layered, I think, in a lot of self-deprecation.
Yes, yes. Casca is Casca is almost a trope character, but because Joe is such a good writer, he comes off as just excellently written. But he's the kind of character who just absolutely hates himself as much as he loves himself. He's like fucking Gollum. You know what I'm saying?
Gollum is such a good parallel to draw there. He's just, he's got his vice, and he just sticks to his vice, and that's all that matters to him. But not really.
Yeah, there's much more involved there. He equally loves who he is and what he's done, and he's very narcissistic in a lot of ways. But then he'll have countless moments where he is absolutely selfless or puts somebody else on a pedestal and shows that he's not actually a narcissist. He's just got some serious problems that he's never going to fix.
And so, with all that, Casca kind of reverts a little bit, and he goes, "It's hard for me to remember all the details of my life. What would help is if somebody just passed me the wine right there." And Monza just interjects. She goes, "Look, stop. I've had 5 men to kill, and I do not have any time to be saving anybody anymore, especially from their own stupidity, and I have no use for a drunk." She's staring right at Casca, and Casca goes,
I love this bit. It's I am not a drunk. I simply like the taste of wine so much that if I don't have a drink, I get violently ill.
I think it does confirm, though, the grape spirit he was talking about was wine.
No.
Oh, come on.
A spirit is always hard liquor.
That's true.
Yeah. And wine is just what they have in front of them.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. And I like how it in his inner monologue it adds that he clung to his fork while the room swayed around him, because this man is tripping. And he has a smile on his face while everybody else is kind of chuckling at his joke. But he hopes that they enjoy their laughter while they could, because Nokomo Casca always laughed last.
If he wasn't being ill.
Exactly. Then we get another shift in perspective, and now Morveer's feeling left out. We come from his perspective, and right from the get-go, high esteem of himself. He goes that he is a scintillating conversationalist, face to face. It hardly needed to be said, but in large groups, he's never been at ease. And this scenario reminds him of the orphanage, when the larger children would bully him basically for their amusement. And he's also feeling left out in the sense that Mercado had hired 2 new assistants, 2 new people, Vitari and Casca. Now, Vitari, when I say she hired them without consulting him in even the slightest of consultations. And
Morpheus getting jealous.
A little jealous. He feels a little left out, though. He wants to be part of the gang. That's his problem. I think we could talk about this later on in a lot more detail, but that's a big issue of him. And with Vitari getting hired, he's okay with it in a sense. Like, apparently, there's been some past discrepancies with those two, but he knows she's thorough, she's prepared, all this jazz, right? And she knows Sapani, but to hire Nakomo Casca especially without his consultation, oh, that's incorrigible. He is
Why he oughta
just a straight up drunk, treacherous, self-destructive, capricious, all this kind of things, all these kind of, insults in his own head. And but he's not liking the fact that everyone seems to be laughing at Casca's jokes, even Day, his own assistant. Yeah, bitch. And then I like how we tune back into the conversation, and Casca is musing. He's joking around. He goes, "Oh, a group of miscreants around the table in an abandoned warehouse, talking of masks and disguises and weaponry and murder. It would think that some underhand business is taking place." And then Morvier comes in. He interjects with a joke. He's trying to be part of the gang here, and he goes, "That's exactly my line of thinking. I could never suffer such a blight upon my conscience. That's why I've basically poisoned all your bowls. I hope you all enjoy your last suffering moments."
And everyone's just like looking at him like, shut the fuck up.
everyone is basically like
exactly,
yeah,
crickets.
I mean, I feel like I couldn't help but think that he was trying to make the same joke that Friendly said, but like Morvier lacks the social know-how to realize that Friendly is slow, and everybody else in the room knows that Friendly is a little bit different, and so they know that, well, if he says something, he's probably not lying, But Morvier is a poisoner and notoriously a devious one, and he tries the same kind of oh, I put something in your food, isn't that funny? I'm like, no thought put into his comment at all. And he's like, "Oh, I can't believe that guy didn't get my joke. That's just ridiculous."
Well, no, there is a moment of self-reflection here because he realizes instantly that it was a spectacular misfire, right?
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
he did get that, even to the point where Day is frowning at her bowl. She goes, "Did this motherfucker really poison my shit?"
Yeah.
And then Casca goes, poisonous humor. A lover of mine was murdered by poison. I have had nothing but disgust for your profession ever since, and all its members naturally. And Morvier, he's at this point right here, when your first time reader, you're reading this, he's naturally affronted, and maybe you would be too, right? First time reader, because he goes, "You can hardly expect me to take responsibility for the actions of every person in my line of work." Because, right, you can't take the blame for everybody that might have made a mistake or have done something wrong and insulted you and your personage. But then the next line, Morvier goes, he thought it best not to mention the fact that he had been personally responsible, having been hired by the Grand Duchess Selfeline of Austria to murder Casca some 14 years ago, but it was a bit of an annoyance that he had missed the mark and killed his mistress instead.
Yeah.
So these two are tied. They've been tied for a very long time, much to Casca's unknowingness, right? His ignorance. If he knew, I don't think Morvier, those two are coming to blows real quick.
I mean, God, if Casca's even capable of it.
Yeah, well, I wonder too, Casca's, obviously we'll circle back to this a couple times in the story. I wonder if Casca does know the whole time. Exactly.
No, I don't
found
think
out
so.
a long time ago. I don't know. I'm just saying. I think it's a possibility.
Oh, you know what? Possibly.
Casca is one of those people who, if he found out knowledge, even if it was way later, he may not act on it because it's just not conducive to what he's trying to do. He, in this moment, it's not conducive to just to lash out. And despite how Casca acts, Casca is very, he is emotional in his reactions and things like that, much more than he acts like he is. But he's also not like quick to do so. He's very thoughtful in
Very
how
true.
he approaches situations. So
Very true. And you know what, Harrison? Casca, being the man he is, captain of the mercenary group and all that stuff, but also just his
fame,
entire
soldier of fortune, yeah.
fame, soldier, fortune, but also the positions he's held, high captain, general, lowly mercenary, whatever. He's always going to have his ear to the streets, right? And Morveer is widely renowned as the best poisoner in the world.
Right now,
He could probably put two and two together. He could, he probably could.
He at least, I suspect, at the very least, he suspects that it was Morveer the whole time. At the very least, maybe not knows for sure, but
or maybe suspects that Morveer knows who did it.
Yes.
That's I think that's reasonable to assume. Mm-hmm.
And I also love the fact that Morveer brags about his like prowess and never missed a mark, and then he just admits to himself that he did miss this one.
And of course, it was Casca that somehow, luckily, just survived.
Yeah.
So after Morveer says, "Don't blame me for my profession," Casca basically they start insulting each other. Casca calls poisoners the dirtiest kind of cowards. And Morveer kind of retorts by saying, "Well, what about drunkards? You guys can't even handle yourselves without a drink. You put everything and everybody at risk just for a sip. Hey, I raise my glass to you." And he takes like a whole ass gulp of his wine just to tease Casca, although this makes Morveer a little queasy. And then Morveer goes, I'm not Morveer, I'm sorry, Casca, he's white knuckling it. He's grasping that table and he's like, "I wish I had that wine." But he goes, you underestimate me. I can stop drinking whenever I want. Matter of fact, I've already decided to do so. I would prove it to you if I could just get half a glass to settle these damn shakes.
What's great is everybody around him laughs about it. Like everybody thinks Casca's fucking hilarious. I imagine even Monza's cracking a smile because they just enjoy his company. He's so charismatic and he's just making a joke after being all serious.
Yeah. And it sounds like he is making a joke, but he is almost completely serious. And to anyone out there that is thinking about suddenly giving up drinking, that can actually kill you. So, yeah, you do have to take it slow. Like, there's a reason why they put you on a drip when you go to hospital for that kind of thing.
Yes.
So Casca easily could have died just from being brought off the wine that quick.
Our famed soldier of fortune.
Nothing can slay our famed soldier of fortune. No chance.
No chance. And even though everyone laughs, like you said, Morveer in his internal monologue, he talks to himself and he goes, "Yeah, everyone's laughing, but I'm gonna keep an eye on this because at this point right now, our beef is immediate and it's evident and it's on site. So he's always gonna be very cautious when it comes to Casca, and because he's gonna imagine Casca has it out for him." Then we shift perspectives. We're over here to Monza. Monza's sitting at the head of the table, observing her team, being the general, kind of, of sorts. She reflects on her time as being a general with Benna at her side, but now she doesn't have Benna, and she can't let her authority slip, especially not as a woman. And then she notices that like Shivers keeps glancing at her, and she thinks to herself, "I shouldn't have fucked him. I fucked up there." And then Shivers, he kind of like brings it up in front of everybody. He goes, "Oh, you and Casca seem pretty familiar. Are you old friends here?" And then Casca goes, "Family, more like it. Am I right?" And they fought as noble members of the Thousand Swords, the most famous mercenary brigade in the circle of the world. Name drop. Boom, boom, boom. And they've, fought across Styria and back while Sazine was Captain General. Sazine, am I saying that correctly?
Absolutely, yeah. You got that right.
Perfect. Thank you. And then apparently after Sazine had took an arrow in the arm during like some kind of engagement and died from festering wounds, then Casca was voted to the Captain General's chair. And then he realized that fighting was way too much work And so that what he decided to do was do as little of it as possible. So they split the brigade in two. Casca took one half, and Monza and Bena took the other half. And they intentionally spread a rumor that there was strife. They're beefing.
Yeah, they had a
within the
falling out.
organization.
It says these.
Yeah. And so then what they did was they basically hired each brigade out to competing dukes or factions.
Which is genius.
Very genius. And they pretended to have to do battle with each other, but still rake in the money, which was great. It seemed like a very good gig for everybody involved until Monza basically was paid by Grand Duke Orso to fight for real. And during a pre-planned battle where they thought it was fake, is one of their usual ones, Monza's brigade charged for real, and did a lot of killing that day. And Casca, we can kind of I can't tell because I don't know from the audiobook, but let me know if I'm correct. I feel like when Casca is retelling this, each bit he's kind of getting a bit more and more not negative, not slighted.
I think
he's not
you're definitely right. He's getting more
Passive aggressive.
Exactly.
Passive aggressive, maybe passive aggressive, but he's becoming more evident with his displeasure of what occurred. Right?
Yeah,
that's the best way I can put it. And he says, like, I wish you could have said, you could have told me so we weren't faking, so this way I could have warned my boys and then we could have saved some lives. And Monza goes, please, like, you care for anybody's life but your own. But then Casca goes, there have been a few others that I valued higher. I never profited by it, and neither did they. And then he stares at Monza. He goes, what about you? What about the faithful people that served you that then turned on you? What about faithful Carpi? Not so faithful at the end, huh? And then I guess they talk about how, I guess, he assumed the Captain General's chair after the betrayal of Monza, correct?
Yeah.
And then
I also love this line where it's like, he was as faithful as you'd want him to be, right up until he stabbed me.
Yep. And then Casca name drops a few other captains, Andiche, Cesaria, Victus. These are other captains, high-ranking officers. And were they still with her or with Carpi in the end? So Monza's getting annoyed. She goes, "You're telling me nothing I don't know already." And then Casca, he kind of pontificates a little bit. He goes, "No one thanks you in the end. Not for the victories you bring them, and not for the money you make them. They get bored and the first sniff of something better, and then Monza just cuts in because again, she can't afford to look weak, especially not from this group, especially not for a woman, which is the second time this was mentioned, I think. And then, so I don't know about the rule of three happening at this page.
Well, I don't think that's like a joke thing. I think that's
no, it's not. I'm just I like to look for patterns, but
yes, there definitely is a pattern there.
Yeah. And so Monza goes, for an expert of people, it's a wonder that you ended up friendless, broke, drunk as fuck, huh? Don't act like I didn't give you 1,000 chances. You wasted them all, just like you wasted everything else. So the only question left is, are you about to waste this one too? Or can you do as I fucking tell you? And Casca goes, Oh, because she also asks him, are you set on being my enemy? And he goes, enemies are things to be proud of. If experience has taught the two of us anything, is that your friends are the ones you need to watch. My congratulations to the cook. And he walks away. And now Monza goes, never fear your enemies, while she's looking around the rest of the table, but your friends always. This is a quote she's repeating to herself from Vittorio.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of that chapter. So we see beef between Casca and Morvir develop immediately. We see beef between Casca and Monza that has been long standing, and it's simmering.
Yeah, it's been brewing, isn't it? It's been brewing this kind of heat. And they haven't met since she betrayed him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder how that went. Like, she betrayed him, but he escaped somehow, or was he a prisoner for a moment? I would really love to know the circumstances of that event.
There you go, Joe. If you're going to do another
story
anthology book, there we go.
I will say, too, like in that scene, it's so interesting that Monza, she doesn't say something mean, and they say, "Oh, I gotta because I have to be strong." She's like, I have to be strong. I have to be, because I'm a woman, because of this group, I'm gonna have to put my foot down." If they weren't there, I think they would have actually been able to communicate better, and maybe, in fact, even before that, if Benna wasn't there, if the other people, the other captain generals weren't there, I bet Monza and Casca could have worked something out. Honestly, I think they could have, because the whole reason that she's not wanting to actually communicate with him is purely because she doesn't want to look weak, which is probably what she's always been, and he knows that, but he still can't get over it because he thought that he had her figured out and he didn't. So it's so interesting how their relationship works. I fucking eat it up. I love it.
It's a good one. It's a good one. So that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate it?
I think I will rate this one a 7 and a knuckle.
Like that. Okay.
Because there's this, again, it's just so well written, and with all four of the characters that are there, we get some comedy from Friendly, we get some unintentional comedy from Morvier, we get so much more from Monza and Casca. It's really well written, and I always enjoyed this chapter and the next one and the next one all the way up until what chapter. So I'm gonna probably, most of these are gonna be pretty high.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say exactly the same with Seven and a Knuckle, because even though it's just these characters sat around a table and just having dinner and just talking, it's so in depth. Like every single character has their own moments, and even the non-POV characters, from their perspective, is you find out a little bit more about every single character. And I just think that's such a masterpiece of writing.
Yep. No, it is. I think I gotta agree. I'm gonna give it 7 too. Make it a trifecta. Boom.
I said a 7 and a knuckle, Jeff.
Oh.
Fucked up, Jeffrey.
Sorry. What about you, George? Did you say 7 and a knuckle or 7?
I did.
You
7 and a knuckle. Yeah.
7 and a knuckle. Well, I'm giving it a 7. Sorry. Fuck it. No, you know what? Fuck it. I'm giving it a 7 and a knuckle. How about that?
I was about to say I respect the double down on it.
Oh, you do? Then never mind. 7. I can't lose your respect. Yeah, I can't add much more than what you guys have already said. It's one of those scenes where there isn't a change of location or a change of locale or scenery, whatever, but there's so much development, character development, even plot line development as well, because we're kind of going forward, but we're also looking into the past as to the circumstances that have occurred that have put our characters where they're at right now. So yeah, I do think it's a really well done well done chapter. George, you're gonna edit that. So yeah, no, thank you for that.
I think one last note as well, I almost forgot to say, is I really like how whenever Morvier mentions his attempted poisoning and all that, that ties in directly to the story that Casca had mentioned to Glocta inside the original trilogy about the with the Queen of Austria and all that, or the Duchess of Austria. I love how he was able to tie that into already set world building, and it made perfect sense. Like it's wonderfully done.
Yep.
And it makes sense for the way that Casca's character is in before they're hanged.
Mm-hmm.
Like the point that we meet him, like he's exactly the way he is now, just a little less fucked up.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're just gonna go straight into the second chapter read through, just due to the structure of this episode. So we're gonna go right into A Few Bad Men, and we're in the warehouse with Shiver's perspective, and he's ruminating to himself, I guess we could say, about where he's at right now, right? He's wondering, why is he still doing this? Why does Shivers do this? Why is he still here? Because he wanted Monza? Yes, he had to admit it. And ever since that she's been cold with him since Westport, it made him want her more. Was it the money? Yes, that too. Because money's a damn nice thing to have. Was it because he needed the work? Absolutely, because he's good at the work. Yes, he was. Now, was it also because he enjoyed the work? Now, Shivers frowns at this. He's starting to kind of realize that maybe some men aren't just meant to do good, and he's starting to realize that maybe he just might be one of them. Every day that passes, he's less and less sure that he could be a better man or that being a better man was worth the effort.
Mm.
So this is something to keep in mind.
I mean, and this is a common problem for everybody. Like, you know, you can apply this to like everyday life with like business or even with just social interactions. You know, you can get a lot more out of life by being an asshole or by being manipulative, but you don't because you're a nice person.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that always stood out to me with this particular line is like, to me, and this is gonna sound like I'm being like bragging or prideful or something, but the question of actually trying to be a better person has never been a doubt in my mind. Of like of course the thought in my mind of being like, oh yeah, I could be a shit person is there, but I'm not actually like, oh man, it might be easier to do that. Maybe I shouldn't be a good person. Like the thought of the effort of trying to be a good person has never even crossed my mind. So whenever Shivers was thinking down this line, I'm like, it's not a good testament to his character.
No.
Because like anybody who is just genuinely a fairly good person does not have a thought in their mind that maybe I should be bad. Because then you're not being a good person.
Because you're saying it's innate.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Well, I will say though, but a good person will have debates within themselves, right? They'll think about like maybe an action that they've taken or something like that might not have been good.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they would feel remorse. That's also another indication. But what Shivers is doing
It's
is not that.
Yeah,
Right?
he's saying maybe I shouldn't be a good person. Maybe it's not worth it. I'm like, whoa.
Shivers, buddy boy. Let's slow your roll there.
But it's us also, in credit to him, is he's you know, he's when we talked about we mentioned it earlier, his fundamental idea of what a good person is already fucked up and not correct. So for Shivers' character, it makes perfect sense that he's having these doubts because he doesn't know who to be anyways. So in his mind, he's electing to be somebody who's good or bad for his own benefit, and he thinks that being somebody good is who he should be. And now he's having that doubt because it's being a good person isn't about selecting to be a good person. It's about just being who you are. So I think it's it sounds kind of shallow when it comes out of his mouth, but the more I read it, the more I really enjoy like the character itself, even if I disagree with the path that he is going down.
Yeah, thank you for that, Harrison. That's very, very good observations and thoughts there. So we go back to the chapter, and Casca, he enters the room in the warehouse now, right? And Casca compliments Shivers' shirt, and Shivers didn't think anything of it. It's a dark silk shirt, and it's not something that he would have liked to wear, but Monza picked it out, so he goes, okay, sure, I'll wear it. And Casca kind of he notices that, you know what? I used to like fine clothes myself, and so did Monza's brother. He actually had a shirt just like that, now that I recall. And Shivers goes, uh-huh. And Casca goes, and he has a little strange smile, goes, has she spoken much about her brother? Shivers goes, she told me he's dead. She told me she's not happy about it. Is there something else I should know? And Casca goes, I suppose we could all be wiser than we are, but I'll leave that up to her, though. So anyway, and Shiver goes, where is Monza? And Casca says that since she doesn't want anybody seeing her face, Jesus Christ, hold on. That since she doesn't want anybody seeing her face, she's basically appointed Casca to be in charge of hiring the entertainers, right?
Yep.
And he's polite here though, because he asks Shivers, he goes, do you have any problem with me taking charge of the proceedings? And Shivers, he has a lot of issues with it because, being a drunk Casca, is that Shivers is reminded of his own father, that after Logan, the Bloody Nine, killed Shivers' brother, cut off his head, nailed it to the standard, it kind of sent Shivers' dad to into a spiral, and just stopped being the well-respected, useful man that he was. And so Shivers is just straight up front. He goes, "I don't trust a man who drinks. You know, any man that takes to drinking like that, he gets weak, and then his mind goes." And Casca goes, "Well, you have it backwards. First a man's mind goes, then he gets weak, then he goes to drink." What do you guys think? Is the bottle the symptom or the cause?
It's a very complicated question. I think Joe is bringing up a very, very, very deep point there, where a lot of symptoms of problems in society are due to other problems and not just the flat out reasons that people state they are. People don't just become alcoholics for no reason. If somebody's happy and they have a good life, they don't generally become alcoholics.
What are you saying?
Oh, well, I'm not trying to say anything. I don't know.
No, I'm messing with you. Yeah, no, we have to remember that Joe has a background on psychology, so this is probably where that's coming from. But Casca tries to reassure him that he's gonna be fine. He is touched by Shivers' concern, which is an interesting way to dress that up. But then he says, "Listen, I'll be back on my feet in no time. Before it was a severe shake, now it's just a slight tremor." And then Vitari comes in the room as well. And then Casca's excited to see her, and Vitari, I guess, was in charge of at least procuring the candidates that they'll be hiring. So, first off, real quick, I do like how this little thing here, where Shivers goes. No, I'm sorry. Casca, hold on. You're gonna have to cut that a little bit out, clean it up a little bit, George. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Casca, he asks, "What have you brought for our consideration? Musicians who murder, deadly dancers, singers with swords," a lot of alliteration here. And then he goes, "Jugglers who," and then Shivers offers, and he says, "Kills." And Casca goes, "Brusque and to the point, as always." And then Shivers goes, "Brusque." Yeah. And then Vitari, she answers for him. She goes, "Thick." And then she moves on. She goes, "Well, first up, we have a band, and they probably make a lot more money from robbing people than actually playing." And then Casca goes, "Ooh, tough folks. Hey." He's like, "All right, enter." And then we have
rough and tumble fellas.
Yeah, rough and tumble fellows. And then they enter, and then they're a shady looking group, right, fellas? And then
Oh yeah.
And then Casca goes, "Who are you?" And they say, "We're a band." He goes, "Okay, what's your band's name?" And then he goes, "Does your band have a name?" And they look at each other. He goes, "No, why would we have a name?" So we're already.
He's like, "You know exactly why we're here, you dumbass."
Exactly. So we already know the quality of musicians that we're dealing with at this point. And then they start introducing themselves. One plays a drum, but then also uses the mace. The other uses the pipe and a cutlass. The other uses a horn and a hammer. And this other person uses a fiddle and blades. And the last person uses a lute and a lute. And Casca goes, "You can fight with your lute?" And he goes, "Yeah, I could swing it, just like this, because there's a great axe hidden in the body of the lute." He's like, "Ooh." And then Casca goes, "All right, well, why don't you..."
I feel like that's an extremely inappropriate weapon, because you can only really use that once, right? You got to rebuild the loot around the axe every single time you hit someone with it, right?
Yeah, very true. Very. It's not functional at all.
Not functional at all, no.
And then Casca goes, "Well, great with the introductions, fantastic, love it. Play us a tune just so we hear how you play." Shivers, in his mind's eye, he says, he wasn't much for music, but even he could tell that it's not good. He says the drums were out of time, the pipe needed tuning, a bunch of other stuff. And then, but Casca, he's humming along as if they're playing great, and he goes, "Oh, what what talented fellows you guys all are. You're all hired 40 scales per man for the night. And they're just like, really? And he goes, yep, 40 scales a man. And so they're excited. They're excited about that. So then...
I mean, that's a lot of money, right? I mean, Monza mentioned earlier that a single scale is enough to buy like a barrel of fish.
Mm-hmm.
So 40 scales for one night's work.
For each man.
It's for each man. It's a lot of money.
That's money. Yeah.
That's Herman's goal at work, baby.
But Monza has that money to spare. And so then after they leave, Shivers kind of goes, aren't we concerned that people are going to notice that the playing sucks and that they might not be really they might not be real musicians? And Casca goes, listen, people don't go to Cardati's for the music. But Shivers is asking a lot of questions. He goes like, shouldn't we have checked how they fight? And Casca, I like how he goes, if they fight like they play, they should have no worries. And then Shivers goes, they play about as well as runny shit. But then Casca says they play like lunatics. With luck, they fight the same way. And then Shivers isn't done really asking questions. When Casca interjects, he goes, I didn't think you'd be the fussy type. You need to learn to live a little. All victories worth having are snatched with vim and brio. And Shivers goes, with what? With who? And Vitari goes, carelessness. And then Casca adds in, dash and seizing the moment. And Shivers asks Vitari, what do you think about all this vim and whatever? And Vitari goes, look, if the plan is smoothly, we'll get Ario and Foscar away from the others, and it doesn't matter much who is playing what. And we don't have a lot of time left anyway because it's 4 days until the party. So we need to get this going. If it's an ideal world, we would have better men, but this isn't one. And Casca goes, it most certainly isn't. But let's not be sad. We're 5 men to the good, as in terms of they already hired 5 men, and they're only a few moments in. So let's keep going. Also, could I get some wine? And Vitari goes, no wine.
I wonder if that's the real reason she had Vitari there, because Vitari's like the only person she thinks as competent enough to actually make decisions. So she's just there to oversee and make sure Shivers and Casca isn't fucking things up.
Right, but also Vitari's also there because she's the one that found these people.
That's true.
Yep. And then the next person comes in, and this is a big motherfucker, right? A few fingers taller than Shivers, but a whole lot weightier. He had a lot of gray hair, even though he didn't look old. Casca comments on his size. Vitari says that she found him in a tavern, drunk as shit, but everyone was too scared to move him, but he hardly speaks a word of Styrian. So then Casca looks at Shivers and goes, hey, you mind taking lead on this one? And Shivers goes, all right. And then he starts talking to him in Northern, right? What's your name? What's your name, friend? And the big guy he was taken aback because he wasn't expecting that. And he goes, oh, shit. My name is Greylock, because he points to his hair that it's always been this color. And so Shivers goes, oh, so what brings you all the way down here? Looking for work, any kind of work, cool, nice. Even if it's bloody, yep, that's fine with me. So, by the way, are you a Northman too? And Shivers goes, yeah. And Greylock says, well, you look like a Southerner, and it's because of the fancy shirt. And he goes, well, I'm not a Southerner. My name's Carl Shivers. And then Greylock blinks here, and that is supposed to tell us something. Shivers? And then Shivers goes, aye. And, Shivers does feel proud at this moment, right? Because Shivers is a named man. We can't forget that. He rode with the Bloody Nine, with the Dogman, with Black Dow, told Duru, told Duru 3 trees.
Yeah, and up till now.
Wait. Sorry. Blech. Red 3 trees. What the fuck was I saying? Red 3 trees at the battle of the Cumner. No, it wasn't that.
Cumner.
It was Duncan.
Yeah, he did fight at the Battle of the Cumner. He's fought all the battles, actually.
Right, all of them, right.
Pretty much
but
all
the
of them.
right. So he's
But
proud.
up until now, nobody knows who Shivers is, and everyone's just like, Shivers, that's so silly. And then it's so nice for somebody to go, oh, kid, yeah, I know who you are.
Yeah. And then Greylock goes, "Oh yeah, you were at Uffrith, right, with the dog man?" And Shivers answers, in the affirmative. And Greylock, yeah, is like with blacked out too, huh? I heard it was a nice piece of work, very neat. And Call says, "Yep, that was it. It took the city with no more than a couple people dead." And Greylock goes, "Yeah, no more than a couple." And that must have been real smooth, and he's looking at Shivers. And then Call Shivers, because his first name is Call, but we call him Shivers. Call Shivers. And he goes, "Yep." And he talks, he talks about how Dogman was a great chief for keeping people alive. Is probably the best person he took orders from, he reckons. And then Greylock says, since Dogman's not here, he figured it'd be his honor to stand shoulder to shoulder with a man like Shivers. And Shivers says, likewise, pleased to have you along. And he tells Casca and Vitari, he's in. Yeah, we're good. And Casca goes, are you sure? He has a certain sourness to his eye that worries me. And then Shivers goes, you need to learn to live a little.
Get some fucking Brio in.
Brio in, yeah. Oh, and Vitari is cracking up with laughter, and even Casca laughs. He goes, got me with my own joke, basically. Well, and then they say, okay, well, you can have your friend. How can we make this work? A pair of Northmen. He goes, we can do a reenactment of that famous the duel, Fenris the Feared or whatever. And what's the other guy's name? And then Shivers, he says the name, and as he does,
he gets a shiver.
Cold. Yeah, he gets cold. He goes, the Bloody Nine. And then Casca goes, oh, were you there? Oh, you've heard of it? And then Shivers goes, I was there, right in the thick of it. I held a shield in the circle. And then Casca goes, excellent. You can be a source of historical accuracy here. and then, he says, you should be able to bring a frisson of historical accuracy. Frisson. And Shivers goes, frisson. And then Vitari goes, bit. And at this point, Shivers goes, well, why didn't you just say fucking bit at this point? And then, but Casca just straight up ignores him. He goes, oh, a whiff of violence. Ariel's men are going to lap it up. This is going to be great. And so then Greylock asks Shivers, what's this guy saying? And then Shivers has to walk him through. We're going to pretend to fight. And Greylock goes, pretend? He's like, yeah, we're going to pretend to fight, put on a bit of a show. And then Greylock goes, well, the circle's no laughing matter. But Shivers tells him, like, down here, that it is. In Styria, it's a whole different fucking world. But so that we got to pretend to fight, and then we might have to actually fight for real some of these other people if, shit hits the fan. And so Greylock goes, all right, so first we pretend, then we fight for real. Got it. And he agrees, and then he walks away. And then Casca, he goes, next! And then we have one guy walk in.
Yeah, the guys, just the idea of, like, this whole scenario is absolutely hilarious. They're just sitting here, like, interviewing people coming in. Casca's like, you're a band, whatever. Who cares? You guys play great. I love you. You're in. You're fucking 40 scales a person. And then some guy comes in, and then they're like, he's kind of sketchy. And Casca, and credit to Casca, Casca's got a great sense for people. And he's like, I don't know about this guy. And he's like, no, it'll be fine. All right, you're in too. 40 scales for the job. And they're like, next. I just. Whenever they get to the third person, I always start laughing because it's just so stupid. Next! The idea of them, like, just hiring people this way is just so, like, human. It's just not something they never show you hiring people inside of, like, TVs or books. It's never like this. It's always like, we have a band. It's 6 guys. We have a lute player, a drum, like, it's always like some kind of, like, edgy, like, oh, look at our squad. And it's just, in this case, it's like American Idol, and it's so funny.
And so then we bring in the next guy, and it's a gentleman in orange tights and a bright red jacket with a big bag. They ask him his name, and he says, I am none other than the incredible Ronco. And they go, okay, what's your specialty, both as an entertainer and as a fighter? And he says, they are one and the same. And he goes, gentlemen, my lady. And he slowly turns around to reach into his bag. And then he whips around, puts his hand to his face, cheeks puffed out. And then out of nowhere, a blaze of fire shoots from Gronko's lips. He's one of those guys. He's a fire breather. and they're all kind of just like stunned a little bit because, it almost hit the table, and they're all just kind of thinking, what the fuck? And go ahead, George.
This must seem like magic to them, right? Like this is just like fucking. The whole fire breather thing has been around for a very, very long time, but it's just like. How much use is that actually going to be in a fight? Like you spray some fire on somebody and then it just goes out like straight away.
Very true. You gotta reload a lot, I guess.
Yeah,
Reload. I'm out. Gotta reload. The thing is too, I think it's just so funny that like Casca is like all on board with everybody here except for the Northman guy. He's just like, that's so fucking cool. You're in.
Yeah, and it's funny because Ronco goes, sorry, it was a bit more vigorous than I wanted to. But then Casca goes, but impressive after all. And he goes, entertaining and deadly. You are hired, sir. And then great. And then he leaves. And then Shivers goes, what the fuck? Are you sure? Fire in a wooden building? And Casca goes, I thought you Northmen were all wrath and bad teeth. If things turn sour, fire in a wooden building might just be the equalizer we need. Shivers goes, the what we need now? And then Vitari goes, leveler. And that's nice. I like that one. Because to Shivers, that's a bad word to pick, right? Because they had called death the great leveler. And Shivers goes, well, listen, fire indoors can end up leveling all of us in it. In case you didn't notice, that guy is also too precise. He's too accurate. Fire is very dangerous. And then Casca goes, fire is pretty. He's in. And then Shivers tries to ask him a question, and then Casca goes, He holds up a hand. Shivers goes, we should. And Casca goes, again. And then Shivers goes, don't tell me. And then Casca goes, I said, don't you have the word in your country? Mercado put me in charge of the entertainers, and with the greatest of respect, that means I say who's in. We're not taking votes. You concentrate on mounting a show to make Ario's gentlemen cheer. I'll handle the planning. How does that sound? And then Shivers goes, like a shortcut to disaster. And then Casca goes, disaster. I can't wait. And then he asks Vitari, who else do we have to consider? Vitari looks at her list and she goes, Barty and Kummel, tumblers, acrobats, knife artists, and walkers on the high wire. And then Casca kind of goes to Shivers. He goes, walkers on the high wire. There you go. How could that go badly? And that's where the chapter ends. Boys, your thoughts and your rating.
I really enjoy this chapter. It's very, very silly. It's very funny. All of the performers are very unique, and I like the fact that they're gathering all these people, and they're just like they're all so clearly fucking irresponsible. Like this guy is definitely going to burn that building down, right? Spoilers. But yeah, I think overall, I think I'll give this one. It's very short. It is funny, but there isn't a whole lot of depth to it, so I think I'll give this a 4.
I think I'm gonna give this one a 3. Like there's some foreshadowing, and it is really funny, but also like it's one of those few chapters that are kind of just unnecessary. So it's still fun and it's entertaining and well written, but other than one particular thing, which it's kind of like it's whatever. It's fine. It's a 3 for me.
Yep. I'll give it a 4 and a knuckle. It was really entertaining for me more than anything else. We didn't get a lot of depth or anything like that. We didn't get a lot of background, but I really just enjoyed the whole smash cut. Here's entertainers, we're hiring them. Shivers goes, I don't know if we should. Casca goes, you don't know what you're talking about, man. I got this. So I just enjoy the entertainment aspect of it a lot. So yeah. 4 and a knuckle for me.
Fair enough.
All right, so that's both our chapter read-throughs completed. Let's move on to our next segment, which is our character spot. Boys, who are we highlighting?
Obviously, the entertainers.
The entertainers, obviously.
They, the band is just so funny. Like, what does he say? he says, "What's your weapon of choice and the instrument you play?" He was like, "Lute and lute." There's an axe in the lute, which is assuming this is like their gig, right? Like they always this is what they do. Yeah.
Presumably that guy isn't constantly hitting people with his loot because, like
presumably, my thought is he is, and he just keeps rebuilding the loot around the axe.
I like how they rob these people and then spend all of their money just getting another loot to build the fucking around the axe again,
just to keep the process up. And it's so funny to that we have all these characters, and they really are just characters that come out of the woodwork and that are just there to do a job. It's great that Joe just goes all out with it too. Like he doesn't just make them like, oh, thug number 47, I have a wife and kids. Like they're just over the top, dramatic, like Disney villains. Like, aha, my loot is my weapon. I think
also the guy that's apparently playing his drum with a mace.
Yeah.
Well, no, he doesn't play it with the mace. The mace is underneath his coat.
Oh, okay.
That would be funny.
It would be cooler if he was playing his drum with the mace, though.
Yeah, I think that would kind of give away the whole gig, though. He pulls out a mace and he just starts playing the drum with it, and everyone's kind of like, wait a minute, that's not a stick.
There's a very fine line between a drumstick and a mace.
Yeah, I do think it's hilarious that these guys have obviously been doing this enough to be known as, yeah, we're a band.
Yeah, we're a band. What's your name? What name?
I think that is more of a modern thing, though, isn't it? Right? Like bands didn't really have names because it'd just be like the band that plays in the tavern.
No, because you would have excuse me, I don't know, William the Bard, right?
What, like Shakespeare?
No, the Bard.
Not specifically Shakespeare.
That's literally what they call it. William the Bard.
I know. Fine, fucking Bobby the Bard.
Bobby the Bard. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? Like they would have names. You need to but
that's just the guy's name. That isn't a band name like we have these days.
If I was traveling and did you hear that the Vagrants are playing at the pub tonight? The Vagrants? Oh my god, I thought they were in Sapani, not here inside of Mures. Holy shit, that's so cool. Oh, yeah, shit. I think they do have names. And also, why would Costa ask? I'm just keeping up with a random name.
Yeah, it's fine.
Costco wouldn't ask if they didn't have names typically. He's a well-traveled man.
Right. He only asks because he's expecting them to have a name.
Yep.
So, haha, George.
That's fair enough. That is a good point, actually. Yeah.
Also, the fire-breathing guy.
The incredible Ronco.
I think that's his. I think this is his first gig. I think that this is his first time ever into an event. He doesn't even realize what it is fully. He doesn't realize it's just a criminal element.
Yeah, he just turns up and he's like, "Yeah, I'll do whatever. 40 scales, yeah."
He goes back home. He's like, "Honey, I got the job. My dream is finally lived out. I can breathe fire for a living. 40 scales for this job."
Also, no. I'd like to know how much experimentation went into him figuring out how to breathe fire. Because that's a complicated fucking process.
Yeah.
Well, it was his life's dream. Of course he did it right.
How many times did he get that wrong? What the fuck?
Probably burned a couple of cats or something on the streets by accident. Or some poor animal.
Oh my god. Man. And then we got Greylock as well. Greylock is clearly just this kind of... he's just down here and he's got nothing else to do and he's like, I might as well hire myself out as this stereotypical Northman. He doesn't even speak the language or anything. He's just standing around I don't even know what I'm doing here. What the fuck?
He's like,
somebody said something about money.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if Vitari was trying to find people and she was like, "Money, Northman, money." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, okay."
I bet you was miming or doing a very crude sign language cash, baby, come follow me.
She's like left a trail, like dropping coins behind her.
Oh shit! Like a bit every 20 feet or something like that, whatever they called it. Well, at least Greylock is, he's all right. Well, I'm here with the famous, Northerner. Great, lovely, love that for him. Oh,
But yeah,
so is that
all around really good fucking. These guys are clearly doing their best, and
no?
we can give them credit for that.
So we are going to see in the next episode, I believe, just how well they perform when the spotlight is on them. We will see how they respond to the call of pressure. So thank you for that, boys. Now we're gonna move on to our final segment, which is our community interaction segment. And for this one, we actually want to kind of switch things up a little bit. First, the boys are telling me about this YouTube page with another First Law gentleman that does First Law lore. Let's shout him out because why not? More First Law content, it's better for everybody. Whoever, George, Harrison, which one of you guys knew about that?
Yeah, let me pull it back up here. The group, it's called Wizards and Warriors, and I'm sure many of you guys have already seen the video. The video's already got quite a few views on it and everything. And it's a little bit older now, it's 2 months old. But they basically made the Magi Go to War. It's a First Law little documentary video talking about their war against Canadius. They got some maps and stuff. They animated it a lot. Talked about Baez and his relationships with different people. It's a pretty well put together video, and it's just cool to have kind of a bigger YouTube channel. With this YouTube channel, Wizards and Warriors, has 354,000 subscribers. Mention the First Law. I will say, for any of you purists out there, there are definitely some discrepancies in the lore. But nonetheless, it's still content that is not out there for, what we do. So it's pretty cool. You should go check it out if you haven't already watched it. The Magi Go to War by Wizards and Warriors on YouTube.
And so Wizards and Warriors, but is that First Law specific or just that one video?
The one video is First Law specific.
Interesting.
We're hoping that they also talk about some other stuff. They did. They do have another video called "Our Favorite Dark Fantasy Series: Lore Intro into Abercrombie's First Law Series." So undoubtedly, they're going to continue to make First Law content. So you guys go subscribe to them. They have not reached out to us or anything like that, but we just think it's cool that they're making it, even if there is some lore discrepancies. But they're not. It's not really a big deal. It's only a big deal to us people who read it every day.
Oh, okay. Nice. I thought there was more videos about the First Law besides the Magi thing, but okay, cool.
They do have a couple of others out there. But it seems like they're just not dipping their toes into it, and they run a lot of different fantasy worlds. They have stuff about, like The Witcher and Skyrim and Warhammer. They do everything. So First Law is probably low on their radar overall.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And another YouTube page we want to shout out is obviously we are pretty we divulge good amount of personal information with you all, the 6 people that listen. But one thing I do want to say is I have a coworker at my current job, and it's a job that I really do love. We do a lot of good work. I don't want to talk about it too much because I feel like if people knew what I did, I'd get canceled just for all the shit I talk about on this podcast. But I have a coworker who hosts a YouTube page, and I'm going to let Harrison and George talk about this more in depth because I don't know too much about the subject, even though I'm a fan of fantasy. But he hosts a YouTube page about Dungeons and Dragons, and I would like, if you all would find it in your hearts to at least just subscribe to his channel, that'd be great. He didn't ask. He was just telling me about it actually today, the day we're recording. And he's a good guy, like him and his friends that do D&D. Again, I don't know what goes into doing D&D, but he was telling me how that they all pull together to help their one other friend who doesn't do well financially and doesn't even have central heating or air in Europe. And they pull together because he has a wood pellet stove, they pulled together to buy him a giant bag of wood pellets. And they didn't even tell him that they bought it for him. but they want to do better. So at least maybe earn some kind of income to either pay for their YouTube page, or as well to take care of their guy. I think that's admirable. I think that's altruistic. We here at the Circle of the World podcast, we believe in that. And so I'm going to turn it over to George and Harrison because I am going to do a terrible job of actually explaining the YouTube page. Boys, take it away.
So the YouTube page itself is called Dinosaur Party, exactly as you read Dinosaur Party, and it seems like he releases streams. It looks like he probably streams on Twitch for the main stuff. So if you can find him on Twitch, presumably under the same name as well, I'm sure you can find him there. Otherwise, you can watch his videos on YouTube where he posts his recording. They're about 3 hours long a piece. But he has a long-running series of this group that Jeff was talking about. It looks like they might have had some other stuff in the works before that point. He has got character animations for like the profiles, and it looks like he puts a lot of work into the maps and stuff. For those who don't know what D&D is, it's basically collaborative storytelling and role-playing. There's dice rolls and things involved like that. But overall, it's mostly just enjoying time with your friends and getting into a character in a different world.
Mm-hmm. And looking at his YouTube page real quick, I don't mean to interject because, again, I don't know as much, but there's an @ it's Dinosaur Party, but his @ is SoundScream6802. Do you see that?
Yeah, twitch.tv/SoundScream6802. You can find the link on YouTube. It'd probably be the easiest way if you want to watch him live.
Okay.
And we'll put that in the description of the podcast episode as well.
Okay. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, George, you have anything to add?
I mean, it seems like a very well put together campaign. I mean, I'd love to be a part of a campaign like this, where the Dungeon Master has actually put together a hell of a lot of content. You've got a world map, individual dungeon maps, character portraits, like you said, and it seems like he does a very, very good job in sort of directing the story and things like that. I've only skimmed it so far, but I'm definitely going to give it a watch over the next couple of weeks, and it's definitely entertaining. If you like stuff like Critical Role or anything like that, then you should definitely give it a look out.
Definitely.
Well, I appreciate that, fellas. And again, yeah, it's just any little bit, it's nice. It helps. Maybe it doesn't do anything, but I figured I'd try. I didn't tell him I was going to do this, by the way. So do not, under pain of death,
don't at me.
Don't at me or don't at us. If he ever asks you why did he get an influx of 6, listeners, 6 viewers, just don't tell us because I didn't want to. I'm not doing it for like recognition. I just want him to do well, if that makes sense. So, just if you can find it in your time to subscribe to him either on YouTube or Twitch, please do. And
also, if there's any budding DMs out there that would like to make a First Law themed D&D campaign, we'd definitely be up for that. We're just putting it out there.
Yeah, that's a Harrison and George thing. I don't.
Yeah, Jeff is too.
Jeff, you'd love it.
Jeff would love it, but he's a bit too old now, don't you think?
He is way too old.
I thought you were going to say too ghetto or too from.
Whoa, dude! I don't talk about I don't talk about race or sociology. I only talk about age. Jesus.
I like how you're saying he's too
Portuguese.
Ageist.
I like how you're saying he's too old, but the guy that invented D&D literally died of old age. So I don't know what you're talking about.
There you go. I know. I will just say I still kind of don't know how D&D works. It's been explained to me by you, George, and Harrison.
You don't know until you try it. Seriously.
Yeah, I just have no idea. I'm just looking at it. I'm not getting it.
You can't look at it. You can't look at it and know what it is. That's not how.
No, I'm not getting it. But either way, it would be appreciated greatly if first of all, check out the mage and the wizard and what? The wizard and what? The other guy's page?
What? What are you talking about?
The first guy's page.
Wizards and Warriors is the
yes,
Wizards
and Warriors. Yes,
check them out.
I think
those guys definitely don't need our recommendation because they've got like 300,000 subscribers or something like that.
Oh shit!
But
all right, well,
we do think it's cool first law content. Why aren't you paying attention, Jeffrey?
No, I just thought it was one guy. I didn't think it was a group of them.
They definitely have a group because there's no way. I mean, maybe one guy does it. That'd be incredible, but still,
Well,
either
that's
way.
fantastic. Well, yeah, please follow.
Definitely go and check out Dinosaur Party because they have some really good D&D content. And if you want a good campaign to follow, you're just chilling out and you just want something to listen to, it's really good to listen to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, appreciate it. If you can, check out Dinosaur Party at Sound Scream 6802, either on YouTube or Twitch TV. I don't even know how Twitch works either, but okay. So thank you again, everybody. I really do appreciate it, and we appreciate all your support as usual. You know that.
Absolutely. And as you all know, this is a passion project for the three. Oh, sorry.
That's our show, everyone.
George, go ahead and say what you were gonna say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We absolutely appreciate every single person that listens to this. We still can't believe that this is as big as it is. It's not huge, but the fact that someone is listening right now to this is actually incredible, and it warms my heart every day.
No, it really does. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So thank you, the listener.
Mm-hmm. No, seriously, thank you all, everybody, from all our guest spots. The guests that we had, where we're talking about Sir Spaceman, the Bloody Niner.
We've got Jordan Slamsey, we've got Trey, and we've got the other guy.
Other guy, Tamil Boar. That other guy, whatever. We it's really do appreciate it. Really, really do. It's always nice to just have a fraternity of folks.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all. That's what this was really about at the beginning. Like just finding people that are into the first law and just trying to make a little community out of it.
And you know what? I'm feeling a little spicy. By the time this episode comes out, I want a couple people. Come on Reddit or the Instagram page or something or our Twitter because we could use some work on Twitter. But come at us.
It's called X now.
Twitter.
Yeah,
anyway,
get with Twitter.
Twitter. I only just got onto Twitter. I am not changing my. No, fuck that. Twitter. So no. Come at us. Why don't you dispute us? Why don't you challenge our views or opinions? Maybe. Weirin is actually a good character. Come at me, bro. Come at me.
This is unscripted. I apologize for the
also
the attack on the audience.
If everybody could just at Joe Abercrombie and try and get him to take notice of us, that would be brilliant.
Oh,
yeah, do that actually. Yeah,
Joe, if you need anybody to do law for the film, we're available.
If you need any extras for the film, we're available.
I'll be friendly. That'll be great.
You're too big. You're too tall to be friendly.
6 and 1.
No, friendly's not short. Remember?
No, but he's like 5'11". George is like 6'7".
I'll just squat. It's fine.
No, just to you, he is, Jeff.
Harrison, you are barely an inch taller than me, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, Jeff, you think you way overestimate. I'm literally like 6 foot dead.
Well, you're all tall as fuck. And I know you are. You're just the same height as my friend Camilo. I will say, in regards to the Joe Abercrombie thing, it would be a dream come true if we had him on our podcast just to interview him. Although part of me is
super
scared.
Nervous.
Yeah, nervous. Because he's written these books that we all love, and intelligent, well thought out, intelligent humor. Just everything is just so layered. And then if he was to just put on one of our episodes, he would just hear us go, dur. And it's just like, oh God, I don't think he would give us the time of day. But I would love it because we're not dumb. We're just silly. But
we're just silly. I think he'd have a good time.
I would hope he had a good time. But we're whatever. Either way.
Anyways,
we just care about everyone having a good time. We care about enjoying the content that either we put out, that other people that we care about put out, or just the content that we're all, consuming from Joe.
Exactly. And another thing I want to say is anybody out there is ever thinking about starting a project to do with the first law or anything like that, you can contact us and we can give you some pointers or some advice and stuff like that.
Or
You know,
we'll
if you,
promote
if
it too.
oh, and we'll promote it as well. Anything at all. No questions asked.
Absolutely. So, just want to say that we really do appreciate everything from the bottom of our hearts. Harrison's appendix scare, it grounded us. It made us reassess things.
You shut the fuck up, Jeff. Stop making it a big deal.
Well, thanks
You can't milk
everybody.
an appendix, okay? You can't milk
Yes,
an
we can.
appendix.
We can milk it for as long as they. How long was your appendix that they cut out of you?
It's like 20 minutes, wasn't it?
20 minutes. So a day for each minute. I don't fucking know. Whatever. Anyway, thanks everybody. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Join us next time as we cover The Peacemakers and Cooking Up Trouble.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media. We have a website, it's circleoftheworld.com, and make sure you go to Reddit on House of the Meme Maker and sign up for Best Served Cold meming every chapter because we're still short on submissions.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any podcast app that you use. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast. Thank you all again for listening.
Get some fucking brio in.